She walked into the bank with nothing but hope in her heart and papers clutched in her hand. A single mother, working 2 jobs, doing everything right. Yet the stares told her she didn't belong. The whispers grew louder, the rejection colder. They didn't see her determination, only her skin. But just when her dreams seemed crushed, a man walked in whose words would change everything. Because what no one knew was that she wasn't just another customer. She was someone's hidden legacy. And when the truth came out, the entire room froze. Who was she, really? Her name was Angela Carter, a single black mother in her early 30s, raising her 8-year-old son, Marcus, in a small apartment on the edge of town. Life had never been easy, early mornings, long shifts, and sleepless nights, but she carried herself with quiet strength. Angela dreamed of something more. Not wealth or luxury, but stability. A bakery of her own, a place filled with warmth where the smell of fresh bread and pies would replace the constant worry of overdue bills. She had saved for months, cutting corners, skipping meals so Marcus never had to. Finally, she had enough to approach the bank with a business plan she had poured her soul into. The folder in her hands wasn't just paper, it was her future, her proof that she was more than what the world had decided she was. Walking into the bank that morning, Angela adjusted her second-hand blazer and held her chin high. The marble floors gleamed, the air smelled of polished wood and coffee. She wanted to feel confident, but the glances from behind the counters told her she was already being judged. What Angela didn't know was that this visit would set off a chain of events that revealed a hidden truth. One that would not only shake the walls of that institution, but rewrite everything she thought she knew about herself. Angela took a seat across from the loan officer, her hands trembling slightly as she slid the folder across the polished desk. Inside was everything: her business plan, her recipes, even letters of support from neighbors who promised to be her first customers. But his eyes barely skimmed the first page. His expression hardened. He leaned back in his chair, the air heavy with unspoken judgment. His questions weren't about her plan, they were about her background. Did she have collateral, a cosigner, family wealth? Angela answered honestly, explaining her savings and her vision. But with every word, his face closed further. Around her, the bank hummed with quiet activity. Well-dressed clients were greeted warmly, their requests met with smiles. Yet Angela noticed how the tellers glanced at her, their whispers low. It wasn't just doubt, it was dismissal, as though she was wasting their time by daring to dream. The loan officer snapped the folder shut. His verdict came in cold, professional words. Insufficient assets, too much risk, application denied. Angela's throat tightened, but she swallowed her tears. She thought of Marcus, waiting at school, believing his mom was unstoppable. She had promised him that their lives were about to change. Now it felt like her dream was slipping away. Still, she didn't move. Something inside her refused to break. She clutched the folder tighter, her voice barely above a whisper, as she asked if there was truly nothing else they could do. The officer shook his head, already looking past her to the next client. It wasn't just rejection, it was erasure. And then, just as Angela gathered her things, the heavy glass doors swung open. Conversations hushed, all eyes turned. A tall man in an expensive suit entered, his presence commanding in a way that made the staff instantly straighten. This was Charles Whitmore, the bank's owner. Angela didn't know it yet, but his arrival would unravel a secret buried for decades. Charles Whitmore wasn't supposed to be there. He was the kind of man people whispered about. Old money, power, influence. But as his eyes swept the lobby, they stopped on Angela. For a moment, his face stiffened, like he'd seen a ghost. And instead of walking past, he approached. "What's happening here?" His voice cut through the silence. The loan officer stammered, explaining she had applied for a loan but lacked the resources. Charles didn't look at the papers. He looked at Angela. His jaw tightened, his hands trembled slightly. Then came the words that shattered the room. "She's not just a client, she's family." Gasps erupted. Angela blinked, sure she had misheard. But Charles continued. He confessed a truth buried for decades. A past affair. A daughter he had never acknowledged. Angela wasn't just another struggling single mother. She was his blood, his heir. The loan officer's face drained of color. The staff froze. Angela's knees nearly buckled under the weight of the revelation. The humiliation of rejection. The sting of being invisible now collided with this shocking truth. She wasn't just being seen, she was being claimed. In that moment, everything had changed. The silence in the bank was heavy. Angela's world had tilted in seconds. For years, she had fought to be seen, to be respected. And in the moment of her deepest rejection, the truth had pulled her into the center of power. Charles ordered the loan officer to reopen her file. His voice left no room for protest, but this was no longer about a loan. It was about recognition, about dignity. Angela's hands shook, but she didn't cry. She straightened her blazer and met the officer's eyes. For the first time, he looked away. The bank that had dismissed her now had no choice but to acknowledge her. In the days that followed, the story spread. Some whispered scandal, others called it justice. For Angela, the emotions were complicated. Anger at the years of silence, grief for opportunities lost, but also a newfound strength. She didn't pour it into revenge. She poured it into her dream. The bakery opened its doors at last, filled with the smell of fresh bread and laughter. A place where Marcus could see what perseverance looked like. Her life had changed, yes. But the deeper lesson remained. Racism had tried to silence her, to erase her worth. Yet truth forced the world to see what it had refused to acknowledge, that dignity cannot be denied and heritage cannot be erased. And so the question lingers. How many more dreams must be crushed? How many more lives dismissed before society stops needing a hidden legacy to prove someone's worth?